to go to a group of people that, maybe this will be slightly more amusing, but these are people who they've actually kind of already had their reckoning electorally. It's just they don't know it. And so I want to talk a little bit about last week's CPAC convention, and then and then jump into just actually connect these two questions because I'm interested, sort of wrapping up with your insights on both of these things. So CPAC happened, basically, are you tired of being called a racist panel, which is hilarious in and of itself, degenerated into a racist.
Slavery was good. Hey, you were
Slavery was
housed and
good,
fed.
yeah. So that might be a tip of getting. That might be a reason.
They played music for you sometimes.
Yeah, they played
here and there.
Yeah.
You're able to go to the bathroom in a closed environment.
Exactly.
I mean, what the hell more could you want?
I don't
frankly?
know. I feel like this is a whole new thing. I never thought of it that way. Like I always felt guilty when I bought like sneakers made by Chinese sweatshop labor, but now I realize, of course, the kids should be thanking.
You're housing and feeding those kids.
Exactly. I'm just crazy how I've been looking at the world. So, anyways, and Sarah Palin was up there, and she made a birther joke, and she drank soda, and and all the rest, and blah blah blah. Now, okay, so there's all this kind of clown shows happening. The RNC releases a report, their kind of autopsy as to why they did so badly. And what I find so interesting about this report is they note some of the problems. Like, we're not doing well with women. We're not doing well with Hispanics, African Americans. Now,
we just need to be better about communicating our message to them that they suck.
And this is exactly the point. So last week I did a little riff and I said, look, this is sort of some political history, but in the 1980s, Democrats, and maybe we like some of the consequences, maybe we don't like some of the consequences, but the reality is when people like Bill Clinton and Al Gore, established things like the Democratic Leadership Council and the Third Way, this was like a genuine policy shift. It just seems like they're going into another attempt at rebranding, at putting a different face on it. There's no fundamental rethinking of anything going on, even in the autopsy report.
I mean, look, you're right. The thing is when I had I had a conversation with my wife about the other day. She has worked in politics and policy for a long time too, and we're kind of going over all this. And essentially, the way I see it from my viewpoint is, when you bring up the DLC and other groups like that, the problem for the left in the 1970s and 80s, frankly, on social issues, and a lot of it was social, some were economic too, but is we were too far ahead of everybody else.
Right.
So the vast center of the country, and I don't mean like centrist as it's described in Washington, I mean the vast sort of people that fall between the poles and have a whole variety of positions, not one sort of position, but feel differently on a variety of issues. They when they looked at both sides, basically they came down more with the guys on the right. That was closer to their thinking than people on the left. And that was a problem for the left. It wasn't a problem morally because, as we know, whether it's our positions on wars like the one in Iraq or whether it's our positions on gay rights or whatever it is, history has borne out that we are always right and they're always wrong. And it will continue to do that because they're stupid people who are wrong. Bigoted, closed-minded, obnoxious, rural, white losers. That's what they are. You can quote me.
I will.
But
I love it.
But now you have a similar situation. You have sort of the polar mirror opposite of that. And what that is basically the right, which has hung out in the 1850s, has gotten so far behind where we are that they're where the left was. And again, I'm not comparing the two positions morally,
I understand.
in their polar relationship to the vast middle of the electorate. Now the right is just you can't bridge that gap in the way that they're trying to by just faking it because they're alienating everybody else. But they're and I make that little joke about white guys and whatever. Obviously, look, I'm a white guy. I'm joking, but yeah, older, rural, conservative, more religious, gun-owning white guys, they're driving the train right now. And the truth is that most other members of our society don't see things the way they do.
Right.
And thankfully for us, their demographic is dying off and ours is growing. So that is their problem. So it's sort of like, to further upset Sarah Palin and be the sexist I am, it's just lipstick on a pig. Because that phrase, of course, was made up just to insult Sarah Palin in a sexist way.
Absolutely.
That's my sidebar for right now. But no, I mean, that's really. I mean, they are. I will admit, trying to change the one way meaningfully. It seems like they're trying to do anything is on immigration, where even Rand Paul has now come out. And I think their position is going to be, we already have it. We already have amnesty. This is better. I mean, they'll try to message it as best they can. They're going to try to do something on immigration. My guess is it won't be as good as anything that we would want. But they realize that, especially with Hispanics, man, they're dead in the water.
No, they're going to try to pivot on that in a big way.
Texas, Georgia, Arizona, 1 or 2 cycles away become swing states if they don't fix that problem. North Carolina, Virginia, Florida become unwinnable for them. I think they see that. So they're trying on that, but the truth is that they still have this bigoted core. Their statewide candidate. There's a good chance that their statewide candidate in Georgia is going to be Paul Brown. Right. He is a crazy person. When I say crazy person, I mean like Son of Sam almost. I mean, he is somebody that said evolution came from the pits of hell. Like background checks were invented for that guy. You know what I mean? I mean, like, of course he doesn't want background checks, because if there are background checks, they probably, not only would you take away his gun, you'd take away his car keys, his right to carry sharp objects,
so
maybe even his ability to leave
really
his home without monitoring with an ankle bracelet. So he's running. There's a good chance he's going to be their statewide candidate for the Senate. There's a good chance that Steve King is going to be their statewide candidate for the Senate in Iowa.
Right.
I mean, these are two absolute lunatics.
Right.
So the problem is, what can they do in these people that support those lunatics? They can't. And I don't. I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to me to see how they try to be. I mean, Rand Paul can try what he wants, and these guys can try what they want, but they're still going to lose the Paul Browns. And you already see Rand Paul's fighting back and forth with Ann Coulter. There's also the whole entertainment complex.
Right.
And those guys are sick, evil people of the kind that enjoyed what, went on at Abu Ghraib. And I'm not exaggerating, because Rush Limbaugh thought it was funny and made jokes about what went on at Abu Ghraib. They're really sick, psychologically demented people, and they enjoy exerting their power over others. They enjoy torturing, whether it's physically or mentally. If you don't think they enjoy controlling the Republican Party, that they're just going to give it up, no matter the electoral consequences, they're not going to do that.
Right.
And the irony is that what Ann Coulter said, in a way, I hate to give Ann Coulter credit or anything, was actually kind of true. They're damned either way. They can't win. If they block immigration reform, which they may well do, they're screwed. If they support it, well, they don't support most other things. Here's the little secret that they don't seem to get when they try to pretend that otherwise Hispanics would love us. Hispanics, like all these other parts of the growing coalition we've talked about, as a general, again, I have to generalize here. There's different types of groups. There's Puerto Ricans, there's Cubans. I don't want to, but if we're looking at it overall as a pollster would, overall, more in favor of passing more stringent gun regulations, more pro-choice. Yes, that's right, folks. They are. Than the population as a whole.
And certainly more like universal health care, education spending, and all of those other
everything economically more against foreign invasions. Point being, they're still a key demographic, growing one, no matter what the right does. So by passing reform that will allow more of them to vote, they lose too.
Absolutely.
So, and Ann Coulter pointed that out, and I hate to admit it, she's right. But I think that they're screwed no matter what they do. It's been most recently shown by Jeb Bush's book that came out, where he can't figure out what the hell his position is on immigration.
Even a clock on lithium is right twice a day.
Exactly. Even
my
George Bush on lithium in a bathtub painting himself naked is right here and there about immigration.
Right.
And yet still his party's not going to be able to figure it out. So that's where they are, and that's the answer to the big question. And it's that way on guns, and it's that way on abortion rights and contraception, and it's that way on raising the minimum wage, and on protecting Social Security, and on expanding Medicare. They're wrong on all of that. Their demographic is wrong on everything. And all these other groups, college-educated whites, single women, even non-college educated and married women are moving away from them. I mean, seriously, they're centered on this one demographic. You can call it the Fox News demographic. It's the same reason Fox News is losing ratings, because unless you come up with something that allows old white rural guys to live to their 120, Fox is going to lose ratings.
Oh, that's a Sheldon Adelson business investment right there.